Hi. Throughout this course, I've really tried to think about the best ways for this to be beneficial for me and my students in my classroom. So, whenever I was first thinking about my problem and how I wanted to transform my classroom, I really started thinking about my strengths and weaknesses as a teacher. And one of the things I realized was that I wasn't quite happy with my writing curriculum and how I was teaching my students how to become better writers, especially when it comes to 21st century writers. So, throughout thinking about what I wanted to transform, I decided that I wanted to really transform writing, especially since I get to have a classroom set of iPads this year. So, throughout this whole process, I've really learned a lot of valuable resources, tools, and I've tried to come up with a concrete way in a way that will effectively help my students become better writers. And that's what this video is going to show, is how I have been thinking about doing that in my classroom. Okay, so this segment is going to be about my problem of practice, which has to do with writing. And throughout this whole process, it's kind of changed a lot because, initially I wasn't sure of what I wanted to complete this assignment about. So I started out with just thinking about how can I design the technology in my classroom to promote effective learning, because that's the whole point behind having technology like that. Then I figured out that I needed to make sure that it was a little bit more narrow so I could come up with some really good solutions to my problem. So then I knew I wanted to go into definitely ELA, but then I chose writing. And so then my problem shifted to how can I effectively use technology to engage students in multiple forms of writing. Then I thought it was important to make sure that I included iPads in my actual problem. So my final one that I ended up coming up with was how can I effectively use iPads to engage students in multimedia and traditional writing? Because both of those types of writing are very important in the 21st century classroom, because even though writing is shifting and having a lot more ways that students can express writing and publish writing, it's important that those main concepts and points about writing still exist. So it's been quite an evolution throughout this process, but I'm happy with where it ended up. All right, so now that I've gone through the justification of my problem and the evolution of my problem of practice, now I'm going to get into a little bit more of the details and the transformative solutions that I have developed to implement in my classroom. So to start out with, there needs to be a really good writing introduction. That's that introduction and the modeling and the expectations that you set at the very beginning really set the tone for everything that you do with that. So I wanted to make sure that first, I obviously talk about digital citizenship, because students need to understand their digital footprint that they're leaving, and that it's really important for whenever they get older and want to have a job, and that what they do online follows them, and really having them understand what it means to be a digital citizen and the responsibilities that they have, and with that also the consequences if they aren't good digital citizens with their technology and internet usage. After they have developed a really good understanding of what it means to develop that good digital citizenship, I want to go into developing goals and what students expect with good writing. So individually, students will be setting goals and what their strengths and weaknesses are and what they want to accomplish as writers throughout the year. and obviously those are going to change through conferences and feedback from their peers, but I found that whenever they have goals set and parts where they can actually meet their goals and move on, that it's really a good motivation tool for them to learn their individual needs and understand themselves better as learners and what it takes for them to learn what they need to develop themselves into better students. After we have set our goals and come up with what good writers possess, I'm going to go into the modeling of the different aspects of the writing solutions that I've come up with. Initially, it's going to be beneficial to go through one together fully so they understand at least one of the programs for each part and the overall picture of what it's going to look like and why it's important and why all of these parts are so exciting for them to be able to understand their writing and develop really individual writing pieces using a lot of different things. So that modeling aspect initially and having students really understand the importance of being a good digital citizen, setting goals, and then understanding the importance of what we're doing is the first thing that is really important for my writing problem of practice solution to be really transformative, like I hope it's going to be in my classroom. Hi, so next I'm going to share with you the main aspects of my problem of practice that I've developed solutions for. So there are some main parts of writing that I've decided are important that I have selected apps and other resources that students will use to develop these. So to start out with, they're going to brainstorm in a few different ways to kind of get their ideas going and try to think about the best way that they could express what they want to express. After that, students will develop a draft. Then after their draft, they're going to have a few ways they're going to collaborate and give feedback, and this will include having conferences with me and maybe even conferences with their peers. And this is also a good time for them to really evaluate themselves and how what they're doing is changing their writing for the better. After they have collaborated and developed a good draft, students are going to use a lot of different modalities and apps to create their writing. So this might be a presentation, it could be a book, it could just be a paper. It's going to really be up to them about how they want to create and express their writing. And then I think it's going to be important for the students to be able to publish their writing. So the last part will be publishing, and this way parents and other people can see it, and we're going to have a class blog where these published writings are going to be made available. Parts of my writing that I'm planning on using, which I touched a little bit in the last segment, but this time I'm going to tell you the first apps that I'm going to introduce to make sure that I don't introduce too much at one time, and then those apps will be built on after my students really understand what those apps do and how they work and how it's going to help them become better writers. So for brainstorming, I'm going to start with Inspiration Maps, which is a graphic organizer. It's similar to Kaggle or Kugel that we've been using, but it's an app, and it's very kid-friendly, and it'll be a good way for them to brainstorm their writing in a graphic organizer. Then with our drafting, we're going to first try Seesaw, and I'll show them how they use Seesaw to make sure that they draft, and then that's also a good way for them to collaborate and share what they wrote with their classmates because they can leave comments and view what each other wrote. Then their feedback from that will help them to then create, and the first thing they're going to use to create is Book Creator. I found that was one of the most user-friendly book makers. It offers a lot of different choices, and they can add pictures and a lot of different text, but they're actually making books. And then we're all going to publish on KidBlog. So KidBlog will be a good place for parents to be able to look at their students' writing and show the learning that they've made throughout this process. And then it'll also be a good way to see how their writing grows after they've done a few different pieces. Okay, now done a lot of research that I've put into my Digo, and I've come up with some really good apps and resources that I'm going to mention a few of here that I'm planning on using that'll be introduced at different times throughout the year. So with the brainstorming part, so far I want to use Dragon Dictation, where students are able to dictate into it as a way to think about what they want to write. Also Bubble.us and Inspiration Maps, and really any other type of mapping tool would be great for that initial brainstorming. Then with the drafting and collaborating, I could use Evernote, Penultimate, Seesaw, and Google Docs, because students are able to edit and comment on each other's writing, which would be a great collaboration tool. Then with the creating, I plan on using apps like Explain Everything, Book Creator, then Pages, iMovie, PowerPoint, and Prezi. All of these provide a lot of different options for students to show their writing and express their writing in different ways. And then finally, with publishing, I plan on using KidBlog, like I mentioned before, but also different digital portfolios or even websites that students can create to share their writing. Introduced my solutions and some of the different programs that I intend to use with my class. I wanted to talk a little bit more about my solutions and why I think this will be so transformative in my classroom. So the types of technology that my students are using go along with a variety of different aspects of the SAMR model, but there are a lot of them that are in redefinition because they wouldn't be able to do these things without this type of technology. So it's really going to transform the way that my students think about writing and express themselves in writing, because they're able to do things that they never would have been able to do without these resources. It's going to also meet the needs of many learners. It hits a lot of different types of learning styles and allows for them to choose, which is so powerful when it comes to learning, because students really own their writing and they're also so motivated because they get to choose, and those choices are just a really exciting way to show things that have been learned. I just really think it's going to make a difference this year in my writing, and I expect to see a lot of great goals and growth that'll show my students are really thinking about themselves as individual learners and understanding how to make themselves learn and work better. So hopefully this will even go along with some of my other subjects, because they'll think about how they learn and they'll try to come up with new ways to help their learning. So I hope that you've enjoyed listening to my problem and my possible solutions, and I can't wait to hear your feedback.